Okay, so good evening, good morning, everyone. Um, okay, so my name is, you can call me Alan. So I have two first names. So my name is Alan. I am a level one judge since 2015. Outside of Magic the Gathering, I'm also the president of Fulcrum Esports. And we've been doing online events since the start of pandemic this year. So my topic is organizing online events. I will be sharing how we at Fulcrum Esports plan our events, how we promote it, and the logistics involved and the actual production. Now, to help address the spread of the coronavirus, a lot of the events involving physical gathering are not allowed. This impacted esports because most internet cafes are closed and physical esports gaming events are canceled. Similarly, tabletop hobbies, including Magic the Gathering, are also impacted when players are not able to attend physical tournaments. In fact, if you log on to our Discord server right now, um, on the number 6 rule, um, you can read there's an item there that says, right now, we are encouraging judges to stay safe and distance themselves from others. And we fully support the decision of the Wizards has made regarding suspension of organized play, encouraging in-person play, sanctioned or otherwise, in an area where play is currently suspended is prohibited. This includes both specific statements, such as talking about running events yourself in these areas, and general statements, such as advocating that such events should be allowed to run. So we are in the time where physical face-to-face events are highly discouraged. Okay, I'd like to point out the differences between physical events and online events. Now, on a physical events, they typically follow the following formula. The players register and pay a registration fee. The player goes to the venue. The players compete through several rounds. The players raise game rules questions to the judges, and then the judges would make a ruling. The winners are announced, and then finally, prizes are distributed personally at the end of the event. Where online events usually deviate are the following. Online events, particularly esports, are usually free. Sponsors would cover all expenses and prices. Players would stay in their home. The game rules are handled by the digital client. Prices are distributed digitally to the players. So instead of us handing out the physical products to the players, we can consider points or cash prizes sent to the players' digital wallets. Now, from our experience, the biggest barrier to entry for an online event is the collection of fees. By removing the collection of fees and shifting the revenue source to the sponsor, we can improve and encourage participation of players. Now, to reiterate, often the barrier to entry is the ability of the player to pay the registration fee online. Also, from an organizer's perspective, we would have to monitor all incoming payments from all the payment channels that we make available, then attribute each payment to each registered player, right? So if you have more than 100 player joining the event, this can be difficult to manage. If the event gets canceled, then you would have to process the individual refunds. To simplify, most online events are funded by event sponsors so that the players don't have to pay an upfront registration fee and we only need to bill the sponsors. So with this in mind, your event should have the additional goals. So number one, be able to promote the sponsor's brand or product or service in a manner that would meet your agreed KPIs, the key performance indicators. Number two, be able to produce an online stream that will engage your online viewers. Number three, ensure game integrity, as this will reflect on your sponsor's brand and you as a tournament organizer as well. So unlike physical events where we only want to determine the winner of the event. Um, an online event is much more is also more about the viewership. So you wanted this to be an event that viewers would want to watch. But it doesn't it doesn't mean that that's the only goal that you have. No? If you run LGS, you can also apply the setup that we will discuss today. So if you want to organize an online event for your own local community, for instance, and then the collection of fees is not a barrier of entry to you, then by all means, you can use these online events to promote your LGS and your brand and to engage your local player. So even if there is a pandemic, you're still able to engage with them and make sure that they are, you still play with them. You keep them you provide an event, an avenue for them to enjoy the game. Now, let me give you an esports perspective. Why are now sponsors spending money on online events? So here's a perspective from esports. And to quote a report from Newzoo, the audience forecast, uh, the esports audience will grow to 495 million globally in 2020 with a year-on-year growth of 11.7%. Audience and awareness numbers are increasing in emerging markets in Latin America, the Middle East and Africa, and Southeast Asia. This is mostly due to the urbanization advances in IT infrastructure. Now, of the 1.1 billion esports revenues that will be generated this year, an impressive 57.9%, that's 636.9 million, will come from sponsorship. Despite holding such a high share of all esports revenue, sponsorship will grow 17.2% year on year and is on track for an even further growth towards 2023. Now, from an organizer's perspective, we now know that sponsors, brands actually invest on such events and use these events as a platform to market their products online. Now, in 2019, Magic the Gathering, as an online event, in fact, as an esport event, they ranked 16th on the list of most watched games with 12.9 millions of hours watched. So there's a lot of people watching Magic the Gathering, whether it's in Arena or it's in Magic the Gathering online. So we approach a potential sponsor. We explain that we can use the esport as a platform to market their brand, particularly if their target demographics is the same as our player demographics. Okay, so now we have secured a sponsor to fund the event. It is now time to plan for the execution. So you will need to set up the following. Number one, a tournament platform. So it could be mogul.gg, it could be MTG Melee, could be Battlefy, could be Challenge, could be Tournament, even Evently. This is where players register and report their scores. There are multiple tournament platforms, such as the ones that I mentioned. Often, these are free to use for you as an organizer and players to use to report their scores. Often, this requires these players to have player accounts. They need to register for an account on these platforms. Social media platform like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This is where the tournament organizer promotes the event. Depending on your target demographics, this could be on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You use the platform where most of your target players are. Then you need a communications platform. This is where the tournament organizers and players communicate live. This could be Discord or a Facebook group chat. Streaming platform. This is where the event can be watched online. This could be Facebook Live, YouTube, or Twitch. Now, once you've selected a tournament platform, be prepared to supply the following details. So first, you need to identify when is the start and end of the registration date. So this is the date range where players can register. Don't forget to include the time. Tournament start date, the published start date, and the time of the tournament. Game platform. Now, we're not talking entirely exclusively of Magic the Gathering here. It could be Magic the Gathering Arena, it could be Magic the Gathering Online, but I wanted to generalize this as an esport event that can apply to any future game that we as members of the Judge Academy would be able to arbitrate in the future. Okay, so game platform, if it's Magic the Gathering, you can choose between MTGO, MTGA. Some would even promote a tournament using a webcam, using Spell Table or Untap.in, a browser-based Magic the Gathering platform. Registration type, you can indicate whether this is this open to all, or is this an invite-only event. Then you will have to describe the event. Rules, you have to make sure that the rules are clear and concise and easily, the players and the, can easily understand. Participation eligibility. Now, there may be specific eligibility requirements that you would require for your players to join. For instance, you can limit the eligibility, can constrain the eligibility to a certain region. So if you want, for instance, players within your vicinity, within your local gaming store, or let's say limited to a certain country, you can limit it to a certain age, you can limit it to a certain gender. So these are something that you need to consider. Now for MTGA, the digital MTR 1.4 lists the condition for participation eligibility for DCI sanctioned events. So I'll post the link later if you wanted to know more about what the specific eligibility requirements is. Because often if there is a cash prize, for instance, involved, you need to be at a certain age to be able to receive such cash prize. Tournament format and schedule. Now, especially if the event spans multiple times, you would have to indicate when these schedules are. Of course, you have to indicate the prices, the contact information of the organizer in case they have questions, the player cap or the maximum number of players allowed to join. Often, in our experience, we allow a limited number of waitlist, as some registered players won't be able to attend due to issues with connectivity. So if you set a cap of 32 players, for instance, expect that sometimes about 10% to 15% will not be able to make it at the start of the tournament. So you want to be able to have a waitlist participants who can easily substitute and fill up those missing slots. Now, while we will not tackle the specifics of these documents in this presentation, you can look at them. These are available under the Judge Academy policy documents for your perusal. Please make sure that for DCI sanctioned non-premier online events, we follow the guides in these documents and align this with our published rules in our tournament platform of choice. So when you indicate the rules, make sure that it's aligned here. Now, there are two types of documents, the digital tournament rules. This document will provide a similar infrastructure to the guidelines provided by the tabletop MTR, but with a focus on digital tournaments and the unique challenges that come with running an event with players spread out all over the world. And the second document is the Digital Infraction Procedure Guide. This document provides judges with the appropriate penalties and procedures to handle violations that occur during a tournament using the Magic the Gathering arena, as well as the underlying philosophy that guides their implementation. It exists to protect the players from potential misconduct and to protect the integrity of the tournament itself. So this is where you'd find rules pertaining to disconnections, for instance, that are unique, rules unique to the digital environment. Okay, this is an example of one of the tournament platforms that we use. So this is called Battlefy. Um, from the elements that we have gathered that we want to post in a tournament platform, you'd see a commonality among these tournament platforms. It would include that the rules are here. There's a specific section for rules. There's a specific section for prices, the schedule, and then the conduct for the organizer. There's also a list of those who have registered. If there is a bracket, let's say it's a double elimination event or a single elimination event, they would see it here. The promotions will be also be displayed here. Similarly, another tournament platform that's for Magic the Gathering called MTG Melee has the same structure. You would see a description that's a freehand text that you can put here. The rules are also here, the prices, and then the contact. Now, if you are a WPN, or if you run an LGS and you're a part of the WPM, Wizards actually encourage you to use the event link. So this is the link to know more about it. And in fact, specific to the current situation, they said that as a reminder, they lifted the restrictions around organizers taking admission fees for events that run on Magic Arena and Magic Online. We have increased the maximum entry fee for both Magic Arena and Magic Online tournaments to $25. No, so for those areas where they allow an entry fee, and this is for LGS, if you're an LGS and you want to engage with your local community, you can choose to run NTGA events while the stay-at-home orders are in place. Next, now that you have set up your tournament platform of choice, you now go to your social media of choice to promote your event ahead of time. In our experience, we usually create a teaser poster approved by the sponsor to start the engagement. If you have a local play group, you can gather your local play group in the social media. You can create an online community and make the event announcement to them. So you can engage with them through Facebook chat, or you can make a post within your community to promote the event. You can also reach out to other players not in your locality if you welcome them to join, but is able to join your online events through online communities specific to the game that you will be organizing. There are tons of player organized communities for every game, including Magic the Gathering and some esports titles like Valorant, for instance. Sponsors would also often promote your event through their own product websites to drive even more engagement. So this is an example of what we did for a sponsor for an all-female Valorant team. We, while most of the details are on the tournament platform, we also link those details in the social media platform. So the rules, the link to the registration is on the post. The rules are also on the post, including the schedule of the event. How to communicate us is also important. So that's why we put a link where they can watch out for the official announcements. Next, we decide how we plan to communicate with all the participants. Often, the tournament platforms have a built-in chat systems where the organizer can send a message to the players, individually or as a group. Discord is a communications platform where organizers can create their own server, like the Judge Academy, and invite players who are participating in the event to join into. The organizer's Discord server will have channels featuring the event where the participants are herded into. Discord also has features that will allow participants to stream their private games to you. This can be used as a tool to arbitrate or feed the stream into your own live production. At the start of every event, we ask all participants to check into our Discord server. We have about 15 minutes to go through the rules and mechanics to entertain questions. So before the event, we make sure, if it's a team event, we make sure that the team captains are inside the room that we tell them to go into. or if it's an individual event, we make sure that the players check in and go into the chat room. Often we use a uh, voice channel so that it's easier um, to make the announcements. Now, during this event, we attend to questions from the participants using Discord. We have very limited manpower. We remind everyone to only use Discord for questions and concerns, as other channels like Facebook Messenger or the tournament platform's own chat system may not be as monitored as frequently as we want. Now, so if you have multiple communications channel, you have to specify uh, where do they need to direct their questions. Often, based on our experience, even if we tell them to only use Discord, because our admin staff monitor Discord. Sometimes they would message you in Facebook. Sometimes they would message you on, say, on MTG Melee directly. Now, if you have very limited manpower and you have a lot of participants, you may not be able to monitor them ahead of time. So you have to set expectations. You tell them that this is the channel that we closely monitor. It is better to address your questions here because we have people who are monitoring these channels. You can imagine that in a field of more than 100 players, you can receive several players asking the same questions all at the same time. Now, to manage this, we often group players into manageable numbers and divvy up the responsibility to attend to players among several tournament staff or judges. So we assign players to several rooms or channels, and there is a moderator assigned to each room to attend to these players. Finally, we also use Discord to call the players directly if they are unable to see the message directed at them, if they are unable to report their scores within a given time. So if we need to get the result of a particular match and they have not responded to a chat message, we use Discord to call the players directly. We do a voice call to them. Now, finally, you need to broadcast your event. The event relies heavily on viewership to meet your sponsor's KPI. After all, this is a vehicle um, for them to promote their brand. So these are several good broadcasting software available to use. So the most popular is OBS Studio. So this is what OBS Studio looked like. This is a free and open source software for video recording and streaming. There are lots of content on YouTube on how to use and operate OBS Studio. There's also Streamlabs OBS. This is a software built on top of OBS. And the developers added some integration with the viewers. So you can see viewers that are trying to engage with you through the live broadcast, like chat management, or if you have a tip donations, for instance, or other streaming features. It's all available there. And finally, there's also the XSplit Broadcaster. There's a free and premium version. It's also more robust than the free version of OBS, but it's also more, it requires more computer power. Okay, the other tool that we use, aside from the OBS Studio or the broadcasting software, is a software called NDI. So we use the NDI software if we need to use multiple computers and want to consolidate our streams into the OBS broadcasting software. So what is an NDI? So the NDI is a network device interface. It's royalty free. It's free. It is a standard developed by Newtek to enable video compatible products to communicate, deliver, and receive high definition video over a computer network in a high quality, low latency manner that is frame accurate and suitable for switching in a live production environment. Simply put, if this is your OBS studio, you want to have multiple video feeds coming from different sources, the NDI is a software that you would install on these other computers so that the video output of these computers can go into your OBS. So I will illustrate this later in a graph on how the whole infrastructure works. Okay, so we wanted to select a broadcasting software that we think we can use. Uh, any of the three broadcasting software are capable of producing a quality broadcast event. So once you've selected a broadcasting software, your next step is to come up with a theme. Often you can buy pre-made themes, or you can find ones that are free to download or customize one for yourself. So you would need the following elements. Number one, you would need a screen. So I'll show you later what a screen would look like. But screens, these are videos or graphics that are accompanied by royalty-free music to denote when the broadcast is about to start, or when you need to take a break, the be right back screen, or when the broadcast is ending. These can also be commercials provided by your sponsors while you wait for certain event content to start. So this is the first video that you see before the match. Stingers, you also need that. It's an additional graphic element, a video element that helps you transition from one perspective, from one type of view to another. Like scenes, yes. I'll show you later what a stinger would look like. And finally, graphic overlays. So these are graphic elements. So these are just graphic elements laid on top of a raw video. This can be a webcam frame, such as this. For instance, you have a webcam frame for John Doe. You say if you have a stream, a live feed stream from player one and another live feed stream from player two. This could be the game feed from player one, the game feed from player two, and then this is something that the OBS operator would type in. You know, again, this is where you put the event organizer's logo. So this is just a graphic element that you lay on top of your broadcast. Okay, so this is what a screen would look like. So often this is a moving graphic. It can be accompanied by a video. So you would want to have this while you are preparing. So for instance, if your event would start at let's say 8 p.m. and you want to, you want to make sure that 5 minutes before the event, your ads are rolling. You wanted you wanted to make sure that your viewers know that you are about to start. This is what you do. Often when you take a break, this is also a place where you can put your ads. A stinger would look something like this. So it is just a fast-moving graphic that would allow you, to give cohesion to your different slides, to different scenes. Okay. Now, during a production event, you would need to fill in certain roles. So you need to assemble a team to fill in the following roles. On a smaller event, a team member can wear multiple hats. So we have to you have to keep that in mind. So number one is an observer. I will enumerate the roles that are in here, and then I will explain it later what these roles do. So number two is an OBS operator. Number three is a shoutcaster. Number four is a broadcast director. Number five is a scorekeeper or the lead admin. Number six is a tournament admin or the judge. Number seven is the head judge. And finally, the tournament organizer. Now, those with asterisks, these are aligned with the digital tournament rules, section 1.3, under roles. Now, what do these roles do? What are their functions? Again, there are esport games that are made for viewing. Um, and these games often have spectator views. In games like Valorant, for instance, the tournament organizer can actually join an existing game as a spectator, and he can cycle views from different perspective. So whether it's an overhead perspective to each player's first person perspective, giving the organizer the option to choose and pick the best views to broadcast. So I mentioned the roles earlier, and this is what they do and how they relate to each other. So you have an observer. So in this example, you have two teams, Team X and Team Y. Team X is composed of player A and player B. Team Y is composed of player C and player D. They are logged into the game server for a game called Valorant, for instance. The observer connects to the same game as a spectator. He can use multiple computers to connect to the same game so that he can have multiple perspective. He spectates the game and gets to the best spectator views possible. He operates multiple computers with different viewing perspective, so he can offer multiple choices for broadcast. He can choose between the overhead, third person, or first person view. So he looks at the game in multiple views and then works with the director and say, maybe for this part of the game, let's show the audience the overhead perspective. So that's what he chooses to feed onto the OBS operator via network through a feed called or the NDI feed. So he runs an NDI software here. The OBS operator also runs an NDI feed and gets that feed from the observer. So the OBS operator, meanwhile, he operates the broadcast software. So he's the one who makes sure that the feeds are coming in properly. So he cues in the stingers, he loads the graphic overlays, he types in the name of the players, for instance. He ensures that the broadcast is smooth. He's the one who operates the OBS broadcast software and pushes the feed to your streaming platform of choice. Shoutcasters are the ones that provide in-game commentary. So these are often your subject matter experts. They make sure that the audience are all engaged. And normally, for an online event, they do this via a video call, often through Discord. So they call in through Discord. They do a video call in Discord, and then that feed is what we feed also to the OBS operator. So if you go back to our previous slide, so the OBS operator receives the video call feed by NDI and slots it accordingly. This could be your frames, your webcam frames for your commentators, your shoutcasters. So while the game is running, they can be commentating on the game. Next, so you have the shoutcasters doing the live game commentary. Um, you have also the broadcast director who directs everything. So the broadcast director tells the observer, get the third person view from player D or get the person perspective from player A. And then he decides and tells the observer what to feed into the OBS director. So he works hand in hand with the OBS, with the observer and then the OBS operator. Also, the broadcast director talks to the shoutcasters so that the shoutcasters, so the events aligned with your hosts, basically. The shoutcasters would know what matches are going next. They are properly informed what to say if there are spiels that they need to say to help promote the event. For the game itself, we have the scorekeeper. So this is our lead admin who's in charge of the tournament platform. So he's in charge of keeping the scores, make sure that the matches are moved properly and they progress in a timely manner. And then he would generate the next pairing and then makes the announcement. Along with the scorekeeper or the lead admin are the tournament admins, your judges. So they man the Discord, your communications platform of choice. So if it's Discord, they man the Discord, so that if there are in-game questions, they are able to entertain these questions from players. So if a player disconnects or they raise an appeal, they are the ones to talk. They are the ones to talk firsthand to the players. Um, they ensure game integrity by keeping constant communications with the players. So if they need to arbitrate games, they will. Now, for instance, there are high stakes tournaments where there is a specific eligibility requirement. Um, for instance, if it's an all-female tournament where you actually have to visually confirm that the participants are actual female. Uh, the tournament admins would then ask the players to turn on their webcam so that they can make the visual confirmation. Or often, let's say if it's in chess, for instance, chess players would have multiple cameras installed so that the arbiters can see that the players are not cheating. So this is what they do to keep the game integrity in check and by maintaining constant communication with the players. And then finally, you have the head judge that renders the final decision when there are certain appeals or scenarios like internet disconnection that needs to be decided upon. Now, there are instances where a game does not have a spectator view, like Magic the Gathering Arena, for instance. In those cases, this is how we often stream the game. So player A runs Magic the Gathering Arena on his side. Player B runs Magic the Gathering Arena on his end. You have an observer controlling multiple computers. So he has two computers with two different Discord feeds. He's connected to the Discord server on both computers. So this observer can communicate directly to player A and ask player A to stream his game directly to the observer. So only the observer and the player A can see his screen. Similarly, on a separate computer, he can ask player B to stream his game to another separate Discord channel so that only player B and him can see the screen. Now, both streams are now fed into the NDI feed via NDI feed to the OBS operator. Often, when we do this, we inform the featured match ahead of time that their matches would be the ones that we will stream, and then we would require these players to be on board on Discord so that they're ready to stream their game if necessary. So when you lay this down in Discord, in the OBS, it would look something like this. The Discord feed from player A will put on top of your OBS software, but often we will crop it so that only the hand portion of player A is shown, as what we normally see on YouTube videos of SEG, for instance. And then also the Discord feed, the stream of Discord number 2 is also fed here, but it's also cropped to give space for the Discord feed number 1. Now, as you can see, in this instance, SEG has a different overlay where he has ample of space dedicated for his sponsors. But you have also a choice whether you wanted to put in the webcam feeds of your actual players or your commentators. Okay, so just to wrap up, after the event, we award the players their prizes. And we get their bank details or other remittance platforms like GCash or PayMaya in the Philippines. And then we wire it to them within the agreed time. We then prepare a congratulatory poster to announce the winners on social media. It's also important to to recognize them, and prepare a report to the sponsors regarding the KPIs that are agreed upon. So these KPIs are available in your Facebook page in under analytics. So it would tell your sponsors how many views, how many reach, and how many engagement did your event generate. So these are the KPIs that your sponsors would be looking after. In this time of pandemic, we encourage more events online. This is something that can also be done on a local community level to keep you engaged with your own local community players. This is the end of my presentation, and I thank you for your time. So if you have any questions, I'm taking questions now.
Okay, thank you, Ronald, for your presentation. If there's any question, you guys can post it on the chat group. So I'm posting now the quiz by Ronald. So you can hit on to complete the quiz. Or if you have any further question, you can post it in the chat group and we can discuss it in the meantime.
Okay, so there's a question. What is the most stressful scenario that you had experienced during online events? Often, the most stressful scenario is to always when you have to restart matches because of players that being able to connect to the game. We make sure, especially for games that require real time uh, uh, real time engagement, like FPS, for instance. Um, we have a period where they do a ping test. So both teams would initially connect to the game client and play for about 5 minutes, or even less, 1 to 5 minutes, just to make sure that they're comfortable with their connection. And then they would have a sign up to say, okay, our connection is good. Let's now start the official match. They would all restart the match, and then that's the time that they begin. Often when they disconnect or a team member is not present, then like any other games where you have waiting brackets, that often pushes the time for the other players, because other players would have to wait. Okay, how easy, hard can you get sponsors for MTG event? Um, uh, to be frank, MTG is a very niche game. Um, you would have to engage with the local game store. So your number one sponsor would be your local game store. So these local game stores is something that they want to promote. If they want to promote their product, their upcoming products, for instance, you engage with them. Those that sell accessories, for instance, is also okay. Other sponsors, it's really normal. Normally, what we do is you come up with a trial event and and be able to produce a certain number of viewer or engagement or reach. Then if you hit a certain milestone, let's say you're able to produce 1,000 views or 2,000 views, and then you can use this as a measuring stick, as an example, before you approach a sponsor to say, hey, we've had experience in Magic, in producing events for Magic the Gathering Arena. This is the number of engagement that we have. If you would want to promote your brand with us, I think we can draw more than this based on our experience. If I was wondering if there's any approach out there that is something in between paper and digital gameplay, like an in between using videos and streaming, but two players are playing paper Magic at different locations. Yes, there are. In fact, Spell Table is one of them. Even before the pandemic, there are groups in Reddit called Play EDH. There's also a Discord group called Play EDH where you can find players, you can find a pod that you can join into, and then there's a community that would help set up your webcam and your table so that you communicate. Now, Wizards has taken this step higher by providing an app called Spell Table. It's a web-based app. You can check it out. that would allow you to connect to other friends to play paper magic using their webcams. So judges are mainly admin staff in online events, right? And deal with stuff like tardiness and sporting conduct. Are not with not with any rules questions in the game problem since the soft yes. Normally, we don't all the game rules are handled by the game client itself, unless it's something like untap.in where the game client cannot handle rules or it's webcam based, right? But if the game client already handles the rules, then what you need to handle are other IPGs like disconnections, for instance, that are unique to the online events. So this is very common. Disconnection and tardiness are very common. What happens if the pre-agreed KPI is not met? Now, if the pre-agreed KPI is not met, then it means that the next time you approach the sponsor, it will not be that easy to get sponsorship from them. Yeah, like in Facebook, you need partner status to get in-stream ads. There will be brands would like the, yes. Yeah, in Facebook, there is a partnership called, no, I think it will be tackled separately, but if you are a content creator, there is a program in Facebook that rewards content creators, especially, but there is a particular requirement of providing content for X number of hours per week or per day. Okay. Hello. Technically, MTGA is not yet released for SEC. Did you experience any issue with W? Okay. Well, most MTGA events, these are really if you organize an MTGA event, definitely it's not for now in our experience, it's not sanctioned. It's not a sanctioned event. It is an esports event. You have players. You can invite players to participate and join, but this is not something that is sanctioned. Although there is no penalty, based on our experience, there's no penalty for us we are not penalized for conducting such events. Judges deal with these issues most of the time. Yes, that's correct. Yeah. The one handling the events for Southeast Asia is based on China. So they're not ready to distribute it in our area, in our locality. Um, if if most of you are into Magic the Gathering Arena, you could see a lot of these events, free events that you can join in MTG Melee. They have recently concluded multiple Red Bull events. These are sponsored by Red Bull, and it's free. So like using proxies in transaction events don't now. This is something different entirely, but if you are doing events, there are certain things that you won't be able to do. So if it's a paper magic based on webcam, it's really hard to to police proxies. So that's why in Spell Table or in other platforms like PayEDH, people can play with counterfeits, and we have no way to identify whether those are legit or not. That's why it's better to run specific game clients at MTG Arena or MTG Online because we know that these are legit game clients. You have to pay royalties to the owners of the game that you're planning to stream. Not really. You do not have to pay royalties, but there are certain game publishers, like Riot, for instance. You can hold events that Riot publishes, like for instance, Legends of Runeterra. If it's a big event, they may want you to report the event to them. So it's as simple as contacting Riot Games and then getting accredited. And then they would send you a form, and then you would have to just report how many players have participated, and whatnot. So this is something that they can use for their own marketing and or their own research. So they will know how many players are engaged competitively in the area. But we don't need to pay any royalties. Streamers have code of conduct, terms of service issues, right? As in-game music. Yes, there are certain games that there are certain rules that you would have to follow, especially uh, if you if this is something that you report back to Riot, for instance. There are games where you need to turn off the blood. So when you're playing Valorant, for instance, you have to turn off the feature that shows blood because you want it to be more children friendly, so to speak. So if you play it on your own, whether it's a standalone, you can turn on as many features you want. But if you play competitively and it's streamed online, you would have to turn off certain issues that they think are sensitive. Um, Music also is a touchy issue because it can uh, if you stream in social media platforms like Facebook, Facebook has an algorithm that detects whether you are using copyrighted music. So in those cases, make sure that on your screens, on your casts, on your stingers, you don't use royalty-free music because people, whether they are the legitimate owner or not, would report you and claim those music as their own, and that would trigger something with Facebook that would mute your video, and you don't want that, especially if you have casters who have provided excellent commentary. You don't want them muted because of royalty based music. Again, all right, yes, that's correct. They can delete your video if you do violate.
Okay, we would like to thank you, Ronald, for his wonderful presentation.